Pennsylvania really is known for being one of the best states for roller coasters among coaster enthusiasts, of course. And this US state is really packed with great amusement parks. We have Dorney Park, Kennywood, Knoebels and Hershey Park. And I have collected 15 of the best roller coasters from the state of Pennsylvania. And as I always do, I've chosen to rank them, of course. So now the only thing you have to do is sit back, relax and enjoy this video. And now coming in at spot number 15, we got Hydra the Revenge at Dorney Park. And I actually saw someone say that the manufacturers were high when they created this roller coaster, and that's quite funny. And overall, Hydra the Revenge is just a very weird looking B&M flawless roller coaster because this has a very bizarre layout. And even though this flawless coaster doesn't really crush you with positive G-forces as we know from B&M coasters, this B&M flawless still features a great layout that starts out with that awesome hang time filled JoJo roll. And after that, this roller coaster mainly features a floaty but lengthy B&M layout. In terms of flawless roller coasters, Hydra the Revenge is very smooth in my opinion. And now coming in at spot number 14, we got Skyrocket at Kennywood. And overall, Skyrocket is just a decent premier ride launch roller coaster. And Skyrocket really starts out great with an awesome first launch into a decent top hat. But this top hat is unfortunately trimmed going down the drop. But if you sit in the back row, you still have a great amount of whip. This coaster also chooses to fly through a decent overbank turn. And then you also have a half whip 0G roll. But unfortunately, you turn up into the trim brakes. And after the trim brakes, you have a decent drop, especially in the back row. But unfortunately, the second half on Skyrocket is so slow and boring for me. And now coming in at spot number 13, we got Talon at Dorney Park. And Talon overall is just a decent B&M invert in my opinion. It doesn't really get talked about that often. And I really love the color scheme of this B&M invert, and this sign is just so cool looking. And overall, Talon just pulls decent amount of positive G-forces on all these inversions. But what I really like about Talon is that you have a cool ending where you fly low to the ground, you can feel the speed, and then you have a whippy corkscrew. But the same sensation of flying low to the ground can also be experienced on another B&M invert we'll talk about later. And now coming in at spot number 12, we got Twister at Knoebels. And overall, I just think Twister is a very odd and bizarre wooden roller coaster with a very weird layout. Twister overall has a very weird start. First of all, you have a lift hill and then you turn and then you go up into another lift hill before the main drop. The first section of Twister really features some great drops with a lot of airtime, especially in the back row. But the main thing about Twister is of course the sharp turns, because all of these drawn out sharp turns really features many positive lateral G-forces. And throughout the whole layout on Twister, you just have these sustained lateral G-forces going through these large turns, and it's just an awesome experience. And now coming in at spot number 11, we got Great Bear at Hershey Park. And this is of course another B&M inverted roller coaster, and this has quite a bizarre layout in my opinion. Great Bear overall features a very weird pre-drop section where you just turn around before going down the drop. But let me tell you, Great Bear really pulls some strong positive G-forces, especially on the vertical loop. You have a cool Immelman and then a very whippy 0G roll. And the best thing about Great Bear for me is actually the last part where you fly low to the ground over this river with a very high pace, and then you hit a very whippy corkscrew inversion. And the only negative thing I can really say about Great Bear is the short layout, because after the corkscrew it's basically just a done ride. And now coming in at spot number 10, we got Fahrenheit at Hershey Park. And this vertical lift Intamin roller coaster really is underrated in my opinion. And Fahrenheit starts off with a really great beyond vertical drop, and after that you have many floaty and big inversions, but this ride experience just keeps getting better and better when you go through it. And in the end of Fahrenheit's layout, you have two very whippy corkscrew inversions, and they can even be compared to B&M invert corkscrews. And Fahrenheit also finishes off with a great airtime hill, so that's positive. And overall, I just think Fahrenheit gets overshadowed by other roller coasters at Hershey Park. And now let's see if other roller coasters at Hershey Park will pop up on this list. And now coming in at spot number 9, we got Steel Force at Dorney Park. Wow, we really have another Morgan roller coaster on the list, and these coaster models are very rare. And overall, I just think these Morgan Hyper coasters are decent because they can't really be compared to the B&M Hypers. And overall, the ride experience on Steel Force and other Morgan Hypers really depends on the trim brakes. If they don't hit, this is a great ride experience. The first drop on Steel Force is of course great, especially in the back row, and the turnaround section is also decent for me because it puts a bit of G-force. And what really makes this coaster great is if you have a trimless second half where you just go through all these airtime hills, then they hit great. And now coming in at spot number 8, we got Steelcursion at Kennywood. And now let's all be honest, Steelcursion looks a bit better than it rides in my opinion. This bizarre hyper roller coaster made by SNS really focuses on inversions because you have a total of 9. And overall, this coaster doesn't really feature the strongest positive G-forces, but you also have some cool airtime hills. These airtime pops on this ride mainly gives a bit of floater, and these small floater pops are mainly an extra addition because this roller coaster mainly of course features on these crazy looking inversions, but the inversions doesn't really hit, they just look cool. So overall, Steelcursion is just a bizarre mix of decent elements. Now coming in at spot number 7, we got Candemonium at Hershey Park, and yet again we have another hyper roller coaster, but this time we got a product from B&M. And we all know that B&M never misses with these hyper roller coaster models because they are just the floater airtime kings. And we can of course apply the same experience to Candemonium because you have a decent first drop, a great floater hill, a good turnaround section, and another camelback hill. Yes. The last parts of Candemonium really doesn't deliver that much, but you have an outer bank airtime hill, and that's quite different compared compared to a hyper coaster. And I would overall rank Candemonium as a mid-tier B&M hyper. And now coming in at spot number 6, we got Skyrush at Hershey Park. And yet again, we're staying at Hershey Park, but this time we have a coaster that exceeds 200 feet yet again. And this time we got the very polarizing Skyrush roller coaster. This wing coaster by Inten really has a lot of different opinions. The first drop on Skyrush is of course world class, especially in the back row, and after that you have strong airtime hills that pulls a decent amount of G-force. But after a decently whippish dangle dive, this roller coaster experience doesn't really do that much for me. Except the cool airtime hill, this roller coaster really crawls in the end. But I would overall still describe Skyrush as the great roller coaster in my opinion. And now coming in at spot number 5, we got Ravine Flyer 2 at Waldermere. And first of all, I actually thought that this park was located in Ohio, but oh no. And the overall plans for this terrain looking hybrid wooden roller coaster was created by CCI, but then it was crafted by the Gravity Group. And overall, this wooden roller coaster really offers a high-paced and crazy looking ride layout. And this hybrid wooden roller coaster even flies over a whole road. Ravine Flyer 2 overall just offers a very lengthy terrain coaster layout with many positive G-force heavy turns and many floater airtime hills. It's just a great woody in my opinion. And now coming in at spot number 4, we got Phantom's Revenge at Kennywood. And in the start, this roller coaster was a big and awful arrow looping roller coaster. But then they fixed the layout, got new trains and created Phantom's Revenge, and that is a great decision. And weirdly enough, the second drop on Phantom's Revenge is way bigger than the first drop. The first half on this coaster is mainly speed and large drop, but after this you have a great second half with many airtime hills. And all of these small airtime hills are just very sharp and very poppy, so you get great amounts of ejector. But unfortunately, this ride is a bit short in terms of ride duration. But if you include the very slow lift hill on Phantom's Revenge, this coaster lasts forever. And now coming in at spot number 3, we got Phoenix at Knoebels. And Phoenix is overall a very old wooden roller coaster that dates all the way back to the 1940s. And this old woody was relocated and built at Knoebels, so luckily that was a great decision. And Phoenix has overall won many Golden Tickets awards for best wooden roller coaster because this woody offers many great airtime moments, and these airtime moments are just strong and they are experienced with a bus bar. And when you combine strong airtime moments and the freedom of a bus bar, it really just hits different. And this old woody just showcases that it is very simple to create fun. And now coming in at spot number 2, we got Stormrunner at Hershey Park. And this might be a very controversial opinion, but Stormrunner is actually my second favorite roller coaster at Hershey Park. And Stormrunner is actually one of those few intimate accelerators out there that still survives. And you don't see this often because Stormrunner features an extended layer with this awesome hydraulic launch at the start. The hydraulic launch is of course punchy and world class. Then you have a top hat with ejector airtime, especially in the front row. And the speed you go through this snake dive is just so crazy because it features a lot of wave and positive G-forces. And then in the end, you also have these bizarre twists and turns with a high pace. It's just a world class coaster for me. And now coming in at spot number 1, we got Wildcat's Revenge at Hershey Park. And yes, one of the newer RMC roller coasters takes the first spot in Pennsylvania for me. And overall, Wildcat's Revenge just offers a high tier and very lengthy RMC layout. The overall coaster layout just offers a great mix of whippy inversion and airtime moments. And as you go through this ride layout, the intensity just keeps getting better and better because the pacing just keeps getting better and the airtime hills are hitting and the whippy inversions are just getting crazier. And after a floaty step up underflip inversion, this roller coaster layout is just world class. So overall, Wildcat's Revenge just exceeded my expectations. And now we've finally gone through my whole list. Have I missed some roller coasters? Please let me know in the comments, and please, if you like this video, give it a support with a like, a comment, subscription maybe, I don't even know. Until the end of this day, I'm always gonna say bye bye.